Hey guys, Bobby here again, and we're just here talking about missions. And I have a very good friend of mine. Her name is Jessica. Jessica, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, enjoying some sun.
Great. It is nice to have the sun out again. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Jess. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, and I spent a couple of years down at Bible school in Missouri, and then a year on the mission field doing college ministry in Norway prior to coming back to Minnesota, where I started pharmacy school and then completed a residency, and I'm now an emergency medicine pharmacist.
Cool. So you feel like God has called you to missions? Maybe tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I started looking at spending some time in Norway on a full-time ministry team. It was such an exciting time looking at like, wow, this is such a cool way that God's using me. And then starting to like realize over there, like what this looks like for the rest of my life, like beyond short-term missions, beyond this. And I remember having this really defining moment there, just thinking like, what could be greater than doing this? I'm spending time with these amazing individuals who are fully committed and have dedicated their lives to full-time ministry. And yet I still couldn't shake this thing that God had something different for me. And so I started looking. I was still on the path of going to pharmacy school, and I just started praying. And I was like, God, if you could just give me some peace about the process, and if it's something that I'm supposed to do, if I get in, just let that be something that I'm at peace with. And I remember thinking, having this big moment of like, this is going to be the deciding thing. So if I get in, goodbye missions, and now I'm in pharmacy. And if I don't, I think I'm going to do missions. And so I got into pharmacy school, and I remember being like really at peace with the decision, knowing that that's what I wanted to do, knowing that that's what God wanted me to do. Then about 2 weeks later, I went to this European conference where the director of the entire organization was there. And he said, "What's new in your life, Jess?" And I said, "I just got into pharmacy school." And I remember thinking, oh, he's going to be disappointed in me that I'm, quote, leaving ministry, or, whatever I thought at the time. And he just got this big smile on his face, and he patted me on the back. And he's like, "That's fantastic." He's like, "My wife is a pharmacist." And I remember thinking like, I just like hung my head, and I was like, oh, so this means I'm going to keep battling this decision of ministry versus medicine my entire life. But it was like, it was just kind of this really cool way that God showed me like none of this is like as clean cut as it looks, or what I've tried putting it into a box over the years. So,
Got it.
yeah,
So you are in pharmacy and ER pharmacy, correct?
I am. Yep.
And how are you using your ministry or your mission call now? Not just in the hospital, but what else are the things that you're doing?
Yeah. So, part of going into pharmacy is I always knew I wanted to serve and work in like underserved areas or have that potential. And so as soon as I started pharmacy school, I did a medical trip down to Belize. And then when I was a resident, I spent about 5 or 6 weeks over in Tanzania working at a very remote kind of village hospital there. And that just really started to kind of plant the seed in my heart of like just the potential of what I could do with this very unique skill set that I was developing through school. And that it's not something that anyone can just pop off their couch and run across the world and just be a pharmacist and also minister to these people. And so, and then about, I think it was actually my second day of work at my new job, I remember getting this email from one of the physicians at one of the hospitals in my healthcare system. And this email went out to like 300 pharmacists. And it said, "Hey, we're looking for a pharmacist to join our team in Haiti." And I remember reading this and I was like, this is the coolest experience ever. There's no way I'm going to get this opportunity because I'm brand new. I've literally been a pharmacist for like 48 hours. and I was like, everyone's going to really want to like do this. And so I like emailed the guy back and I was like, "I'm brand new, but here's my experience. Here's what I've done in the past." He was like, "Oh, the spot's yours." And I was like, "What?" I was like shocked. But that kind of started my journey working at a trauma hospital down in Haiti, which really only like stirred this more. That was a unique experience because I was working with a lot of people who didn't have the exact same belief system I did. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people though. Some of the most inspiring people I've ever been around. which led to working a lot more closely with a children's home in northern Haiti. And it was actually on one of my trips there that I kind of got stuck in a mini disaster. The whole northern part of the country had flooded. We'd gotten about 50 inches of rain in about 10 days. There was no clean water. There was no food. They used coal for cooking and cleaning their water, and it was all wet. So there was a lot of violence that was erupting based on not having food. And it was this eye-opening experience for me regarding disaster medicine, basically. And it was after that led me to really God just really put it on my heart that there's a way to combine my faith in Him, my belief system, my work in the medical field. And that's when I reached out to Samaritan's Purse, and I applied for a position on their international disaster response team. And so started working through them. I've yet to actually deploy with them, but I've worked closely with them on a couple of different things. And then it was through that led me to getting my master's in international disaster medicine through a program in Italy. So I'm actually currently in that. As you can imagine, this is a weird time to be in a master's program for international disaster medicine, but it's just been really cool to see over the years how all of these little steps that I didn't think were bringing me closer to a ministry option have 100% been crucial and key steps in order to prepare me for the next step that God has. And I've not arrived. This is still a very much so ongoing journey. I don't know what next year is going to look like. I could very well be in the same job doing different things. I could be living halfway around the world. But it's exciting. It's a fun adventure. And I feel like every step I'm taking is bringing me closer to that and is preparing me in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own.
That's great. So do you feel like the call of missions is still in your life, and it's probably growing with every experience? Is that kind of what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. And I think what's been really neat about it is that it's shown me that it's not just missions when I'm around the world. It's in my own workplace. It's in the local things that I can be a part of. It's in my ability to even help be a resource for people on an international level, that I'm still sitting in my home in Minneapolis, but I'm helping consult and helping build programs. And it's a journey for sure. But yeah, I would definitely say that is still a core part of my drive behind what I'm doing, why I'm doing things. It's definitely the filter that I look through when I'm making decisions about what's next. And I'm always kind of asking myself, how does this play into the bigger picture of having a different level of ministry and what that looks like. So
cool. So hey, just one final question, Jess, if I can. What's one thing a student could do to kind of take that first step in responding in a call to missions, but they really don't think it's going to be a missionary or a pastor? But what's one thing they can do to start obeying God's call upon their life?
I think the biggest thing is to not limit what it looks like. I think that was when I was looking back, because I've gotten this question before, people saying did you ever think this is what it would look like? Did you, and the answer is always no. I had no idea this is what it would look like. But I think it would have been a less reluctant process getting here if I hadn't been so black and white in my mindset of you're either going to get credentialed and sent out by a missions organization, or you're going to have no role in ministry. And that was foolish on my part to limit it, to limit God's work in that way. But I think it's more so just instead of looking at something that happens and thinking about how this might deter you from being in ministry, or it looks like it's one step further, look at it as this assumption that God is pulling you closer to ministry, and then getting creative with your mindset of how does this fit into ministry? I didn't think this would be a step that I would take, but now that it's taken, how does this fit into ministry and how does this work? And it's just been really incredible just to see all these single steps that I've taken that have been so mystifying at the time of God, really? Really, God, is this what you want? And then all of a sudden I come around the corner and it all makes a lot more sense. And every time you take a step like that and you realize that God will continue to use it for just like his overall picture, it's so much easier to take the next step. Like the first time, it's a little bit terrifying. You're like, this makes no sense. This is not in my plan. This does not seem to work out. But then as you learn to just trust that even the most bizarre paths that you end up on really are this curvy way of getting you to where he wants you, just viewing it as an adventure, it makes the whole process a lot more fun and exciting. And it really, like, I look forward to the next kind of bizarre thing that happens, because I'm like, well, here we go again. And it's been really fun. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's easy to put something in your head what you think ministry is going to look like, and the moment you do that, you have limited yourself so much, because nothing about my life looks like what I thought it would look like. And I don't think I could have designed it, though. Even if he'd given me free reign of like, hey, just go wild and I'll just come along for the ride, I wouldn't have been here, and I wouldn't have designed it this way, and it would have been sad, because I think it's going really well and it's been a fun adventure. So
yeah. I think it's really important. It's the obedience steps of I need to do this, and then God will open up this. And a lot of times we want to see the end in mind, and this is exactly what it's going to look like. And I don't think anyone I've talked to as that has stepped out in obedience in ministry or in missions ever really knows what it's going to look like. But it's just a little step. Are you going to obey this step? Are you going to do this? And then as you keep pursuing God's call, then he defines it more than you defining it.
Definitely.
That becomes your sweet spot you never knew. So very cool. Well, hey, Jess, thanks for hanging out with us today and talking to students. May God bless you as you pursue your missions call around the world. Thanks.
Yeah.